The events that took place on September 11th will be forever etched into our minds. The horrific series of events began while Ashland High School was going through a routine day. After the first plane crashed, the news filtered through the student body. Yet the school administration quickly dealt with the problem in a mature and orderly fashion. Mrs. Cohen and Mr. O'Malley visited each and every room, assuring and calming the students and answering any questions that the students had. All extracurricular activities were canceled for that afternoon, which was a truly wise decision considering most of the student body was still in shock. A television was placed in the cafeteria to let students know of any recent developments in the story. The school observed a moment of silence at 12:15 on Friday, September 14th, in honor and memory of the victims lost in the tragedies. The teachers took time in the following days to discuss the events with the students, and even teachers who did not take the time still made it clear that they were willing to answer any questions students had. The doors to the guidance office were wide open, allowing students to talk with another adult if they needed to. Mrs. Shandell was available for questions students had and reassuring.
My role in general is to support any students who are having any kind of difficulty that in some way affects their life in school. The problem may be in school, the problem may be at home, the problem may be with peers, but at the moment where it affects their ability to function well within school, that becomes my area of responsibility. The school dealt with the attack initially in a variety of ways. Firstly, the principal and the assistant principal went to each classroom individually, and the school resource officer also was part of that team, to explain to the kids exactly what had happened as far as they knew it at that time. That was simply for the purpose of making sure that everybody was receiving good information. At the same time, my room as the school adjustment counselor was made available for any student who felt overwhelmed by the news, who was deeply affected by the news personally, anyone who needed to step away from the situation they were in and come to a quiet and secure place. And thirdly, the guidance counselors were out and about talking to kids in the cafeteria, anywhere else that they found them, and either dealing with them themselves or channeling some into my room who needed the more individual support. The day that the disaster struck, almost as soon as students in the school became aware of it, they started to arrive in my room, and I think that first day all the kids who came in here were kids who were concerned about the whereabouts and the safety of one of their parents. They were all kids whose parents were supposed to be on a flight that morning, or who are often in the World Trade Center, or who were somewhere in New York on business, and these were the kids who were most immediately affected. I think there are a variety of reactions. One of the first, of course, is fear. And sometimes when people are afraid, they regress to a simpler form of thinking than they would normally have. So along with the kinds of fears that we all have in situations where we don't know what's going to happen, there are also some kids who felt afraid that maybe a bomb was going to drop on Ashland High School. This was very unlikely given that the targets were huge national targets, but this is the kind of thinking that sometimes comes from people who are extremely afraid. Other fears are very general, very normal ones. Fears of flying now, fears of the safety of parents who travel, fears for other extended family members who may work in New York, in Washington, and from a few but not many boys there have been fears about being called up for service. In a situation like this, there are no easy answers, and I cannot say to any student this will never happen again, or something terrible will never happen again. It's really important to be honest with kids. We're all searching for answers here, and we're all trying to deal with it the best we can. One of the best things that I can do is allow them to talk about their fears and exactly what it is they're afraid of. And sometimes what they're afraid of is something that I can assure them is very unlikely to happen. Otherwise, just the ability to express a fear, to talk it through, alleviates the problem to some extent. And because this is my job all the time, not just when there's a disaster, kids who have a recurring fear, maybe nightmares, whatever it is, can come back at any time, and we can go over the same ground again, or we can tackle whatever has come up newly for them. There were two main things, I think. One was we had a faculty meeting on the afternoon, right after school that very first day that it happened, allowing faculty to discuss the situation, to talk about what had been difficult, to ask questions of the administration with regard to how things were being handled. I spoke at that meeting, a school psychologist spoke at that meeting, so there were various ideas being shared and offers of support. The second thing was that I wrote up a list of some ideas of strategies for dealing with discussions involving kids in the classroom. A lot of the classes, those first few days, had discussions in class time, and I wanted to be sure that the faculty had some pointers as to what things might be helpful. For those next 3 days, I put all my other normal appointments on hold, and I did have students in my room most of the time for those first 3 days. After that next weekend, I found that students were not wanting to talk about this anymore, and this is also a survival technique, that after a while it's a lot better and a lot easier to get busy with normal life, and I saw them anxious to get back to class and be doing their activities and their normal things. The students who I see on a more ongoing basis, some of those still talk about it. It is a fact that for students who have had any kind of trauma in their lives involving some kind of loss or some kind of very difficult circumstance, are likely to be affected by this in a way that other students are not. And so the kids that I see more regularly will often bring this up as an issue. As far as the high school goes, I have prepared an article for the parent newsletter, which will be going out shortly, in which I give some suggestions and have made it clear in there that I am available for parents as well as for students, and I'm hoping that if parents are really having trouble supporting their kids, if they don't understand the kids' reaction, if they just need someone to talk it through with, I'm hoping that they will approach the school, because I am more than happy to help with any of those issues.
This tragedy has touched nearly every American.
You know, there are signs of patriotism that are popping up all over the place. And WBC's Bill Shields joins us live in Boston now with an interesting part of that story. Bill?
Jack, we're at the Reflecting Pond at the Christian Science Church. Behind me, you see they're setting up for a candlelight vigil tonight that will start at 7 o'clock. All across America, people are doing whatever they can. This next story centers on Ashland High School, where the kids created a special remembrance for so many lives lost.
Thanks, Justin.
Good job. The disease known as alopecia has taken away her hair, but Michaela Duramo will not let her pride as an American be stolen.
I personally am not. I can't donate blood, so like I wanted to be able to do something more than just like sit back and just watch TV and just stick.
The red, white, and blue ribbons are generating money that would normally go to a school project. But these are not normal times. This money will go to New York.
The second day, we felt that the kids were beginning to get angry, and we wanted to take that anger and make it very proactive. Let the kids do something positive.
The Ashland High School cafeteria. Everyone is dressed in red, white, and blue today. They watch the news, and like everyone else, these kids worry. But the ribbons help.
Well, it just helps me to know that I'm doing all that I can to help the people that have been victims of this.
Whatever we can do to help.
This isn't supposed to be happening in America, but it is.
A great deal has happened this week in our country that has made
Then just after 12 o'clock, a school-wide 2-minute moment of silence.
or to appeal to a higher power.
I was thinking about all the people, all the friends and family members who died.
Everyone here at Ashland High School would like to express our deepest sympathies to the families of those lost in the tragedies. Our thanks go out to all the rescue teams in New York City and Washington, D.C. Coming the first weekend in November, Unplugged, highlights of the fall sports, homecoming rallies, the coffee house, and the National Honor Society induction. We would like to thank you for tuning in to Plugged, and we'll see you next time.